the Trillionaire Kill Chain. This is a documentary-style podcast, building into a documentary-style documentary coming this fall. This is a making-of episode. These will come out whenever exposing a 6-year plan to destroy democracy takes a little longer than expected. The goal of the whole project is simple. There cannot be trillionaires and democracy at the same time. And they've decided which one they'd like to exist. We can debate whether billionaires should exist. We've got them, and I say they're next. But the game right now is keeping us from having even one trillionaire. Expose the con, and then in the worst case scenario, tax them into irrelevance. Here's the thing I didn't expect when I started this whole project. I really think I discovered something that I didn't know, even though I've been researching politics and how messages and ideas spread for decades now. It's not really a trick that's built by one side in the sense that there's not something that one side is doing that the other side can't do. They're both confronting the same essential problem, an information void. And that information void for the 20th century was filled in large part by our institutions. In the state of nature, we don't know what other people are thinking, but as universities and media grew in the 20th century, it was largely reflective of a liberal society that came out of post-World War II America. And right-wing billionaires decided they couldn't have that in the kind of wealth they imagined. And they decided that the information void was just another land grab. Elon Musk created nothing. He's using a system built over 60 years by the Republican Party to take out democracy. And we are in the final stages of that attack, but we can still stop it. That's what the Trillionaire Kill Chain is all about. American fascism isn't some grand philosophical awakening. It's at its core a campaign finance story. If you remember back, early in 2024, the narrative was that Biden and Harris had a massive cash advantage. Trump was drowning in legal fees, financially incapacitated, unable to scale. He'd only briefly been back on Facebook and X, largely because Musk pushed him back on those platforms. But then Musk walked into the campaign. Through the holes in our post-Citizen United legal framework, he effectively self-funded a presidential campaign. I want people to understand that was literally not legal or possible before 2024. And as soon as it became legal for one man to effectively buy the presidency through the holes in our laws, it happened. The richest man who ever lived bought our government, dismantled the agency, keeping millions of kids alive overseas, 14 million dead, 4.5 million of them children, according to the best estimates, eventually. And he walked away with investigations into his companies dropped, contracts secured, and the launch pad to $1 trillion cleared for liftoff. Right before the 2024 election, Andrea Pitzer and I were doing a podcast together, and I said, hey, if this goes the wrong way, we should do a project together. Andrea, if you should know,
literally wrote the book on the subject. It's called One Long Night, A Global History of Concentration Camps.
I thought at that moment, there was no one more important than someone who understands what it looks like when a country becomes a concentration camp society. Her podcast, Next Comes What, is one of the most important things I'll ever work on. I've also, in this time period, produced a bunch of videos and podcasts with Marcy Wheeler, who gave the clearest account of how we got to this point through her podcast, Ball of Thread.
He won in spite of launching a coup and trying to steal 300 classified documents.
Polarization was actually Trump's superpower. He was able to involve tens of millions of people in his petty grievances in a way that Republicans weren't before, and use the right-wing media machinery to power this resentment and supercharge it with all of the most reliable exports of the right: racism, misogyny, celebrities, xenophobia, and makeup. Back to Andrea. Her recent episode, she talks about Trumpism as a social contagion, and it centers on a study that just came out. It's all about authoritarian rule and figuring out how it spreads. It's based on experiments by the Norwegian armed forces, and it goes from there. It starts in the barracks. New recruits get surveyed on their authoritarian attitudes on day one before they even met their roommates. The Army randomly assigns bunks. 8 weeks later, the researchers come back and ask again. This isn't your typical echo chamber argument. This is a measured effect on random assignments. Recruits paired with authoritarian roommates came away significantly more authoritarian themselves. When the researchers ran a second version to isolate the trigger, they simply lied to recruits and told them that the views were popular before they even knew. It worked. Fed a complete fiction about their bunkmates' policies, people conformed anyway. They ran it again on a much bigger sample across 29 countries, the same result everywhere. This isn't a quirk of geography or military culture. It's standard human programming. Your programming, my programming to a degree, your step uncle who loves Charlie Kirk, all of it. And here's the ass kicker. It works both ways. When researchers ran the experiment in reverse, telling recruits that their cohort opposed authoritarian rule, even diehard authoritarians softened up around skeptics. As the author put it, it's entirely possible to move people in both directions. Norway did not find an authoritarian machine. It found a persuasion vacuum and proved that either side can fill it. That's how Fox News works. If everyone in your house sees everybody everywhere all the time thinking right wing, your mom starts acting like that, then your whole family does, and then everybody does. Theodor Adorno was writing about this in 1950, trying to explain how ordinary Germans produced the Nazi state. He called it the authoritarian personality. Bob Altemeyer spent the next 4 decades measuring it and kept finding the same slice of the population primed for it. What Fox added wasn't the disposition. It was a signal strong enough to reach these people every night and keep it switched on. Rhetoric scholar Jennifer Murcia calls the line under all of this demagoguery, because it isn't persuasion at all. It's not trying to convince you of anything. It batters you into agreement and calls the trauma consensus. And it's not just cable anymore. X is a better example of this than Fox News ever was, because we can actually see how this happens in real time. A paper in Nature this year ran the algorithmic version of the Norway bunk experiment. Nearly 5,000 real X users were randomly split between the algorithmic feed and the plain chronological one for 7 weeks. The algorithmic group didn't just see more content, they grew more likely to prioritize Republican-coded issues, call the Trump investigations unacceptable, and side with the Kremlin's line on Ukraine. This wasn't a debate. Nobody argued anyone to anything. The algorithm promoted right-wing accounts, buried the news outlets that gave fair, objective news to some sort, and people followed along. And when the researchers switched them back to the chronological feed, none of it reversed. The bunk assignment became permanent. And then the siege of Minneapolis happened, and something stuck in my head as an incredible use of community power. During the peak of it, and we're talking about this again, we're seeing peaks now, just quieter, but during the peak of the siege on Minneapolis, people let each other know that ICE was near faster than they could with a text message by using their whistles. The whistles spread faster than text messages. I wrote a piece, probably the most viral thing ever written. Shocker, Democrats accidentally discover a way to drown out Fox News. I think it was the headline combined with a picture, a peaceful observer, woman bundled up in a yellow jacket, warning ICE not to shoot her because she's a peaceful observer. Of course, we've seen other things drown out Fox before, COVID, the Great Recession, Katrina, but those were all pre-X. Right? Black Lives Matter drowned out Fox for a while. That was pre-X as well. That was before Elon controlled X, and one of the big reasons the right wanted to take X is because a movement like Black Lives Matter was able to spread in large part thanks to the way that Twitter worked with its less algorithmic approach that has been completely destroyed by Musk. Minneapolis told us that even with X in the mix, you can still drown out the right-wing narrative, though the right never had to break their deep story, which is a key concept here. Let me talk about this for a second. Arlie Hochschild describes a deep story as a feels-as-if narrative that strips away the objective facts to focus entirely on how people feel about their social and political reality. It's the opposite of the facts don't care about your feelings thing the right pretends to love. It's saying only my feelings are facts. The most beautiful example of this is The Big Lie, where everyone everywhere can pick any random piece of example and suddenly become an election expert based on someone saying that they found a bunch of ballots in a dumpster behind a Kroger. Their deep story kept running underneath the surface. And this false narrative they were building together, Kate Starbird, a disinformation researcher, compares it to an improv troupe that builds a scene with no script. And you know how the siege of Minneapolis started. It was with a right-wing deep story. A right-wing pimple claimed that he had discovered some fraud in Minneapolis. It gave Stephen Miller an extra chance to be racist, also a chance to punish and target Tim Walz as a punishment for Minnesota swinging towards progress, even though they almost went to Trump in 2016. Minneapolis was the biggest progressive success story of the last decade.
A Minnesota miracle is unfolding as they make progress on a whole host of issues, from protecting abortion rights and new gun safety measures to expanding access to the ballot and reducing child poverty.
Chicago organizers shipped more than 150,000 whistles out into the country, including Minneapolis. By winter, there were whistle networks in Portland, Seattle, Bellingham, even Alaska. People had never seen an ICE raid were whistling away, or had whistles at least. Nobody won an argument to make that happen. No one got persuaded. People just saw their neighbors were doing the right thing and did it too. That's the pure effect I want to talk about. It's also the reason I think this moment requires us to discuss the greatest movie ever made, Casablanca, a movie written and shot while the war it was about was still being fought, with nobody sure exactly how it would end.
I'm leaving with him. Haven't you told him?
No, not yet.
But it's all right, isn't it? You were able to arrange everything.
Everything is quite all right.
Rory.
We'll tell him at the airport. The less time to thank thee for all of us.
I call the end of that movie, the last sequence, the most effective spectacle since the resurrection. Renaud Louis supervises Rick's cafe.
We searched the place. Where were they?
Sam's piano.
Serves me right for not being musical.
He's reading every face there.
Do you have any idea what you'd have to look forward to if you stayed here? 9 chances out of 10, we'd both wind up at a concentration camp.
And he sees in Rick a fellow traveler with no ethics whatsoever.
What about us?
We'll always have Paris. we didn't have, we lost it until you came to Casablanca. We got it back last night.
They have a good time together.
That was all over long ago. For your sake, she pretended it wasn't, and I let her pretend.
I understand.
Here it is. Thanks. I appreciate it.
A welcome extra fight. This time I know our side will win.
But it's all about making a buck.
What you just did for Laszlo, that fairy tale you invented to send Ilsa away with him. I know a little about women, my friend. She went, but she knew you were lying.
Until...
Hello, put that phone down. Get me the radio tower. Put it down.
What does Renault do?
Major Strasser has been shot. Round up the usual suspects.
In that moment, Louis didn't need convincing.
Only a sentimentalist, but you've become a patriot.
He saw a new consensus to read.
But it seemed like a good time to start.
I think perhaps you're right.
That's how most brains work. That's the entire fight. Making the resistance feel as ambient and obvious as Fox spent 30 years making cruelty feel. Make it so that the grifters and the guys who will go with anyone like Louis have to pick the right side. The rooms that trillionaires built on purpose came from destroying our fair elections, from destroying the Voting Rights Act, from destroying our campaign finance system, from breaking down the rules that made us into a democracy, and tearing down anything that prevented trillionaires from dominating the vacuum.
It's a sound echoing across the city of Minneapolis.
Over 60 years, we've seen each of these attacks get further and further into our government until we literally had a billionaire running the government for about 5 or 6 months until he lost an election in Wisconsin and became too big of a sore point for the regime.
Joe, you want to check the tweet that Elon just put out a little bit ago?
Time to drop the really big bomb. Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That's the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day. Jesus Christ.
And had to go.
I'm not participating in any of that conversation between Elon
Have
and
a nice day.
This is the kill chain. You have Trump now inside the government, acting the way the Republicans think the government should act. Pay me and I will give you every advantage the government has, including my government-sponsored social network, but it cuts the same way. The same peer effect that let a trillionaire buy the presidency, let a bunch of neighbors with whistles and phones out-broadcast the most expensive propaganda machine in human history. No one had to win a debate with Fox News. You all know that when you argue with someone, you don't persuade them of anything. You entrench their beliefs. What persuades people is seeing people change around them. Usually it's people who weren't activated becoming activated. It's also just seeing different information that's put in front of you. So back to the trillionaire then, and the two huge interrelated stories still running underneath him. An AI bubble inflating past comprehension and the first $1 trillion anyone has ever accumulated, except his status as a trillionaire disappeared. Musk has slid from the first trillionaire in human history to something closer to $800 billion, still more than he and probably the entire state of Utah could ever spend in a lifetime, but not a trillionaire. And the trillionaire mark matters. I point this out because it signifies how much more wealthy he is than his peers. And that's why he wants the status. Evan Yells at Cause points out that Musk's whole thing is seeming cool.
It's why he wears leather jackets with t-shirts everywhere he goes. It's why he needed to make his very own dark MAGA hat.
He personifies Silicon Valley in this way, this entirely fake way of seeming cool and having your status entirely be tied to money.
It's why he goes on Joe Rogan and performatively smokes blunts.
He personifies it more than anyone else, and he personifies the attacks on our government because he is all about reaching the next point of status at the expense of everyone and everything around him.
Becoming a trillionaire made Elon a completely unique target, and everyone is out here shooting their shot.
When he hits that $1 trillion, it inspires everyone below him to go the other way, just like Rockefeller inspired other billionaires or millionaires of the time to build libraries.
Ordinary Americans resent their wealth and power. Oil tycoon John D. Rockefeller, his son, John Jr., decide to redeem their public image. John Sr., to win American hearts and minds, publicizes his philanthropy.
But all those billionaires had some philanthropic bent because it was about competition. The trillionaire status becomes the marker upon which your distinction above your billionaire peers becomes undeniable to the rest of the world.
I mean, you're hated. Do you even know that?
Why did he fall from being a trillionaire?
It actually feels wrong to brag about our SpaceX call because it was about the easiest prediction ever that stock would fall below its IPO price.
It's an AI company more than it's a rocket company because that's where they think all the growth in the companies come from. It's a company that bleeds over $6 billion a year, yet it was more valuable than Tesla.
The more I think and talk about it, the more annoyed I am that these are separate companies and the conflicts it creates that they're separate companies.
More valuable than almost every other company on the market.
Obviously, with SpaceX owning XAI, they own the brains to Grok, which is becoming the operating system of Tesla, Optimus, and Robotaxi. So if I own a bunch of robots, but I don't own the brain, what's the value of the hardware, but not the software?
Tesla earns about $6 billion a year, and it's worth $1.2 trillion.
What I'm leading to is that if these two companies don't merge, Tesla shareholders are going to be the ones holding the short end of the stick compared to SpaceX shareholders.
That makes its price-earning ratio 255. To put this in context, Toyota, the biggest car company on Earth, trades at 9 times its earnings. He didn't lose that $1 trillion by accident. He got there by rushing, folding a wobbly AI bet into a rocket company just to hit that number fast while he still could. He may never have that opportunity again because you don't get to $1 trillion by being slow and sturdy.
Make another prediction. Money won't matter in 2036.
You get it by grabbing the bag whenever you have a chance.
I'm not sure that the people who bought your shares think that money won't matter in 2036.
Well, but that rush is exactly why it's unwinding now.
What do you want money for?
Let's put it plainly. I want him to have been the last trillionaire this country ever has. That means that we would have one trillionaire in our history. That's the ideal result of all this. And hopefully he helped in that process by going for it too fast before the midterms, before the Democrats had any chance to do any oversight into his government, before Democrats had any chance to do any real oversight into the AI bubble and how the regime has inflated it beyond any sort of sense. Real oversight is the one thing that breaks the bubble that Musk is betting his whole fortune on. Right now, tech billionaires and crypto super PACs are pouring hundreds of $millions into this election for one specific reason. They want to make sure that neither party, not the one they've captured already or the one they're trying to maim, does any real investigation in what could be the greatest bubble in human history.
The problem we face right now in the United States is that the government is doing nothing on AI. The government is doing nothing to stop AI from taking your jobs. The government is doing nothing to stop AI from exploiting your kid, is doing nothing to stop AI from giving advice to a terrorist, is doing nothing to stop AI from being a huge cybersecurity threat.
We absolutely cannot let the AI money silence us.
And when you ask yourself why?
Because it isn't just that you get AI money if you say nice things about AI or crypto. If you start saying bad things, the money starts flowing against you.
These AI companies have funded massive super PACs. They're threatening to spend over $100 million in the upcoming elections in order to silence people.
But that silence is all most people need to think this kind of plunder is okay. So here's the thread that connects an army barracks to Norway to Rick's Cafe to a data center. None of this runs on persuasion in the way that we think about it. Not the recruits, not your uncle, not the stuck uncle who thinks the Cybertruck is a work of art. It runs on people reading the room and updating what they think is now normal. Elon Musk got rich in part by breaking the system that was supposed to make what he does illegal.
Super PACs paying for the campaign's canvassing activities in direct coordination with the campaign. Also not possible before Citizens United, and really not possible before the FEC's advisory opinion.
We're all in the barracks now, all the time. The recruits in Norway didn't know that they were in the experiment when this happened. They just talked or didn't, complained or didn't over breakfast. What you say at your kitchen table, what you let slide at work, whether you put a sign in your yard or just think about it, whether you start knocking on doors, all of this is running on all around you every day, whether you notice it or not. So that's the job. Figuring out what story can fill that room on purpose so that everybody else can read what is really going on, what really matters. And the vacuum doesn't care who fills it first. Rick got on the tarmac and did the right thing, and it turned Renault. And that's how we build the whistle network, is that's how you show everybody else in the room what they need to talk about. That's the moment when the fight stops being about overcoming the hum of the machine. It becomes about what we can do for each other. That's a power fascism can't even comprehend. Our job right now is helping as many people as possible claim that power before the billionaires buy that too. Come find out all about this project, all about the AI bubble, all about stopping Musk at stopthetrillionaires.com, the whistle network for people who can't let freedom perish on our watch. And stay tuned for more of the Trillionaire Kill Chain. In the next episode, we explore the $44 billion machine for fascism, or how Twitter briefly, so far, made Elon a trillionaire.